Hello, fellow Keyblade warriors everywhere. My name is V. Welcome back to, obviously, Kingdom Hearts Month, where today we're going to be doing a what if video for the occasion of this glorious month. Also, big points to whoever can point out the big difference that's going on in my videos lately from just a slight little small cue. Anyway, today's what if video to kick off the events. I'm going to be doing something that a lot of people haven't really gone into, but have just been making jokes about that. I'm just like, since it's becoming more prevalent due to the fact that this certain movie is becoming a cult classic that people are trying to make everywhere now over the last couple of years, can we make this canon? And that's to say, what would happen if Max Goof was in the original timeline throughout the entire series of Kingdom Hearts? Or rather, to shorten it out, what if Max was in the beginning of Kingdom Hearts? Now keep in mind, I actually mean the very beginning of the events, even going 10 years before the original first game, which means even having to delve into the whole entire backstory that we could do possibly for Birth by Sleep all the way to Kingdom Hearts 3. Hopefully by the time that I make that whole thing of what if to a conclusion, Kingdom Hearts 3 will have come out, and I would have played the shit out of it to make it a full-blown video. So let us begin with this whole big what if, shall we? So we begin the whole events, like I said before, with Birth by Sleep. With it being set 10 years before the main game, I would be thinking it's between both the Goof Troop TV series and between the Goofy movie. Like, Max is still in the middle of his teenage years, like starting up with high school and whatnot, but not at that whole point with... Actually, to think about it, he'd be in middle school by that point, so it would be kind of less him being punkish, but at least him being somewhat more rebellious against his father. But with that being the case, that also means that Pete has a bigger relationship with Goofy, being like next door neighbors, having his wife leave him with his daughter, but leaving PJ. So with that being the case, we're gonna go back into the main focus of Max, because now I have a setup for something else we're gonna get into after I set things up here. With Goofy being the head of the Royal Knights and being in charge of safeguarding Mickey's whole passageway to become a Keyblade Master underneath Yensid's tutelage, where does that leave Goofy's son Max, you might be asking? Where does that leave Max, you might be asking? Well, for all intents and purposes, I would say that before Goofy actually settles down with the librarian from the Extreme Goofy movie, because I swear that's a good pairing aside from him and Peg Pete, but we'll go into that in a different video. I could see Goofy putting Max in Clarabelle's care, because I believe that they had an off and on thing, because Clarabelle wanted to make Horace jealous from any lore that you kind of read about Disney, kind of like being Clarabelle being one of the biggest thoughts in Disney, just saying. So Max would be raised inside the castle, or at least in Disney Town, instead of like in the suburbs where they live. So far it's kind of like a weird connotation about how this is going, but let's just still follow with this. So as we know in the events of Birth by Sleep, Pete was banished by Her Majesty Queen Minnie, because in the original Kingdom Hearts 2 it was said that Mickey banished him and so forth and so on, but different continuities now, yo. We ain't gonna be taking no shit from nobody. Any case though, because of now Pete having himself get banished and then being saved by Maleficent by some Deus Ex Machina ability of, oh yeah, I know this motherfucker's gonna be in this void right here. What would then happen for PJ as a huge setup on the whole big return that Mickey has to return to Disney Castle now that he's an official Keyblade Master, with Goofy and Donald in tow as his protectors? Well, obviously, Goofy was on good terms with the family enough, so I honestly believe PJ would be an adopted son of Goofy's, and so they would be kind of be raised together as a small little family unit for the next 10 years. So far, not a big involvement with Max, just kind of like a whole where would he be in the original timeline of things, but I believe it gets a little bit more interesting if you just follow me a little bit more. As we go into the first game now, with Max obviously being older, I would say in between after the events of Extreme Goofy Movie and his events in House of Mouse, where he would be in college, maybe like a sophomore, junior, and having a part-time job, but also having some Knights training, because he is the son of the captain of the Knights of all of Disney Castle, so he has some combat experience. I believe PJ, since he's still going through the whole experimental phase and kind of looking up to Goofy as a father figure more so than Max. Look up anything involving Goof Troop, Goofy movie, or an extreme Goofy movie where it kind of seems like PJ looks up to Max's dad more than he looks up to his own dad, obviously. And I could honestly see them being at least extreme sports fighters, but at the same time at least competent battlers in the field. I know that's not a real word, but shut up. So, with that being the case, with Goofy and Donald obviously going off to do whatever to find Mickey and the key, obviously by the letter, we should at least have an extra scene where it shows Goofy going home to pack up, but getting a call from his son trying to be like, "Hi Dad, I'm coming in, I'm bringing Roxanne," because I kind of believe that Max and Roxanne actually still had a relationship, but just didn't really have it secrete while in college that well, because, oh no, distance, all this sort of stuff. Building up some continuity here, obviously. But then Goofy drops the whole thing of he's leaving to find the king, and he wants to find someone to take charge of protecting Disney Castle in his absence. So he's going to try and find someone in his Knights regiment, but he wants to see his son when he comes back. Obviously, Max would just try to be like the cool people and be like, "Alright, cool, whatever, Dad, I'll see you later." But internally just like, "Oh my god, my dad could probably get killed. I should probably do something." So he takes leaves of absence from school using the declaration of probably a proclamation from Disney Castle to excuse himself to go into full-blown knight duty. I could believe him doing that because I kind of feel like to be a knight in Disney Castle is kind of like being the military in real life. It pays for your whole tuition, you can get taken out of school to do active duty, and it allows you to do stuff with the Royal Army to do the same way that any other army does in real life. As such, PJ would try to do the same thing, and I would say Bobby would join in, but I don't really care about Bobby, so he's not in this continuity. Fuck Bobby. As such, with Max and PJ now being on guard duty knights with the Disney Castle, they're now just being portrayed as just regular old knights. Nothing really exciting is going on for the first couple of worlds because it's kind of like the same continuity that we all know today of the same timeline. They meet Sora, they go to certain different worlds, but where does the thing change where they get more involved with the story? I have another real avenue to go with this, which is when the Monstro level kind of gets implemented. Whichever route you want to take with it, on the way to Atlantica or on the way to Halloween Town, whichever one you want to say is the route that they take in canon, that's the route that we're going with and how they find Monstro. But V, you're probably wondering, how would they get off Disney Castle? Wasn't there just one gummy ship that was in the hangar bay in all of Disney Castle? Was there though, is my big response, because there's only one on display due to the fact that, one, rendering multiple ships during the olden times for a game back that was as big as a pursuit as Kingdom Hearts wasn't really that big a thing unless it was a CGI moment that was later incorporated for stuff like Final Fantasy or for other games that had a bigger budget of things. Or if you want to actually be sort of incorporated, there was Skies of Arcadia, but that had less bit rate to kind of make it more incorporated in sort of events to make more ships kind of more viable. But for Kingdom Hearts 1, I don't believe that there was just one gummy ship. I believe Chip and Dale have an entire arsenal of gummy ships just in the hangar bays everywhere, and there's even probably experimental ones that they have not really released yet for anyone in the regimen for Disney Castle. With that being the case, I believe that if Max and PJ were to hear an alert about how the gummy ship was lost inside of a monstrous space whale that jumps through dimensions and so forth and so on, I could see them stealing a very experimental, super fast and sleek and streamlined gummy ship to go and save Goofy. They don't know about Sora at the moment, and they're really not that big on Donald Duck because I don't think Max really knew Donald that well, and PJ, since he was raised by Pete, didn't know a lot of Goofy's friends. Like, he probably knew about Donald over the 10 years, but that's That's not really a lot. That's more like you know them because his foster father knew him, sort of thing going on right there. As such, they be trying to find clues, but they don't know where the space whale is. So where would you want to go first? Go to the biggest recorded data to where they were prior. Enter back in Traverse Town. Max and PJ would then just settle in and try to find either Leon, or the magician Merlin. One of those three viable options would be able to tell them more details into where Goofy, Donald, and Sora are. As such, by just trying to traverse through Traverse Town, try saying that 3 times fast, we then have Max and PJ fighting off against the Heartless for the first time. However, here's a small thing I kind of could imagine for their fighting style. With Max and PJ both being kind of like the extreme generation that kind of does the stuff of motocross, dirt bike stuff, rollerblading, skateboarding, all the sort of stuff that we all used to think people loved to do in the 90s, like look at Rocket Power for instance. I could see Max and PJ being the pioneers of flow motion combat in the Knights Regiment. Like utilizing their entire environment to be at their beck and call, and even using their own prototype stuff of a hoverboard or a scooter that allows them to do some trick shot things by imbuing their whole weaponry and even their small little extreme applicants as light imbued weaponry, able to disperse the Heartless at its own core without releasing the heart, which would probably pose a problem, as you guys will soon see in a small moment. With Max and PJ not being official knights that don't really know how to do stuff that efficiently, I don't see their first fight against Heartless going well. At least them dispersing them to run away, but not enough to win their first fight because they're still college kids. They don't really have the fighting experience that Goofy would have as a captain of the Knights, or as Donald would be as the Royal Wizard, or as Sora would be as a Keyblade wielder alongside Mickey and eventually Riku, and Kairi, and Xion, and Lee, and Roxas. Anyway, with that being the case of them just trying to escape, why would they then be rescued before they get taken out to have their hearts stolen? I could see Leon and his friends saving them. Leon, Yuffie, maybe Aerith, and maybe Sid, just saving them just to keep the peace in Traverse Town, and as soon as they see Max, they would mistake him for Goofy, because if we're honest, there's barely any dog people in the universe. There's only Max, and there's only Goofy. I don't see either choice as being different than the other besides their hairstyle, or whatever clothes they be wearing. So, then we get Leon getting the whole rundown from PJ and Max. We obviously get to skip that moment because who would want to hear a whole backstory of stuff that we already know? But Leon just going over the stuff with Sid over them getting the upgrade to navigate to other worlds, and they don't know where they are currently. But since they're not strong enough to kind of traverse through the worlds themselves, they should probably stick around for a little while to train up, know how to combat against the Heartless, and then head out when the time is right. Which would probably eat up between Monstro, Halloween Town, and Atlantica of training. So where would the training kind of commence? Well, I kind of see Max trying to take notes from Leon because the Gunblade wielder himself is a combative person that could teach people how to utilize light, as well as some other techniques that aren't really utilized that well in the Kingdom Hearts franchise. But where would PJ go? He's kind of like the learner type, he's a big poet, he's kind of a soft person that doesn't really want to do any big up close and personal combat. So where does that leave PJ? Well, as pointed out by my brother-in-law of Phoenix, Esper, I love you bro, I kind of see PJ going off to meet up with Merlin and learning magic. Not to kind of disrespect the whole thing of being a knight, but I see him more as just the whole big soft magician type that just wants to safeguard his friends but do a lot of big damage. Not taking after his father, but more taking after his stepfather in the defensive position to be the guard, but also the offensive. He protect, but he also attack. And that sort of training allows them to not only head out in time with a new piece with the gummy ship to make it a little bit more faster to keep up with the original gummy ship in terms of travel, but able to meet up with them only briefly when they're going into Neverland. And I only say briefly because they'll be able to see the ship, but lose the ship at the same time. I only say that because I don't see them having the whole reach of they're gonna stay long enough to meet up with Goofy, have a big reunion, without having to get blocked off by Captain Hook's ship. Because we have to remember the continuity. Captain Hook does eventually just bombard them, just say, I'm taking over, and I'm taking the crew with me of you three brats. And then Riku having his whole big spiel about, oh, you replaced me and Kairi with these two nobodies. You have to keep the continuity right here for a little bit longer. But they are getting close enough as they at least land not on Captain Hook's ship, but on the actual islands inside Neverland. Stuff that we haven't seen since Birth by Sleep, by the way. As we get to have them interact with the Lost Boys. And guys, with that sort of stuff, I'm going to stop there because there's a whole big lore thing I could do from this. I want to make a whole series of this after the month is over of just what if Max was in the Kingdom Hearts franchise, because there's a lot that we can go into with this. There's a lot of materials that we can dissect, analyze, and then just plaster into it that makes it seem like it makes sense, but not enough to distract from the main plot that's been going on with the whole franchise. But the next one is going to be a fucking doozy, because I already know for a fact that Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to be released January 29th of 2019. I have been pondering over this one a little bit less, but a lot more due to the fact that one of the trailers kind of made this a big enough storyline that should have been pursued a lot more in an AU than anything else. So I'll see you guys in that one and in the other countdown videos that we have scheduled for the month of Kingdom Hearts. I've been Master V, and I'll see you guys later.
Let me tell you